Hey everyone, this video is going to be focusing on white tattoo ink. I'm going to be showing you when to use it, more importantly when not to use it, how to use it, and also spreading some light on why white ink tends to fade over such a short space of time. Firstly, I'm going to show you some whites that I use. This is just two of them, but this is Shine by Nocturnal. There's Perfect White by Eternal. I've also used Fusion White. I've used Dynamic White, which is the same makers as Dynamic Black. I've also used Heavy White by Dynamic, just to name a few. I tend to prefer the thicker pigments when I'm using white as opposed to the thinner ones, but that's just personal preference. I just think they lay down a little bit better in the skin. Now this video, like most of my videos, is going to be an analogy to explain why white appears to fade so quickly. So first of all, let's look at this subject logically. So what's the best colour to make white stand out on? Well, it will be a black background if we're looking at the subject logically. So we take, for example, a chalkboard. We've got the black chalkboard and the white chalk on top of it. That's going to give you the best results. So using this logic, if we applied this logic, we'd say white ink over a black tattoo would give you the best results, right? Or let's take skin colour. Again, using the same logic that we just spoke about, then surely enough, then tattooing a black person's skin would give you the very best results for tattooing white, and then from there someone really tanned, and then finally someone who's really, really pale, like myself, like Casper the Friendly Ghost, that you get the worst results using that logic. Well, actually, all this is wrong and the other way round when we talk about white tattooing. And to explain why this is wrong, we need to look at what is actually happening in the skin when we use white tattoo ink. Now, before we get right into this video, when I'm talking about white ink actually being tattooed, I'm assuming firstly that it's been tattooed correctly, meaning it's at the right depth, using the right technique, your machine's set up and it's running correctly, because if any of these variables are wrong, then your ink could fall out anyway, regardless, even if you were using black ink. So, for the purpose of this video, I'm assuming that the tattoo is actually being tattooed correctly. Now, when white goes into the skin, it immediately looks crisp and vibrant, and then a few weeks later, maybe, or months down the line, it magically disappears. Well, here's what you might not know. The ink doesn't actually disappear. It's still in the skin, okay? Just like all of the other ink that you put in the skin. So the question is, why can't you see it? Well, all this is to do with colours competing with each other. Now, if you haven't seen on my other videos on cover-ups, I'll stick a card up on the screen. If you click on that, you can watch it at the end of this video. But on that video, I explain a little bit about colour theory on that and explain how certain colours will compete with the other colours. Well, with white ink, every colour will overpower it. So, let's for example say you've got a white t-shirt. So here's our white t-shirt. And let's just say you splash it with some blue ink, okay? Now obviously the blue is going to overpower the white and you'll end up with a big blue mark on your t-shirt. So let's say you splash it with some a lot lighter than that. Let's say you spill some orange juice on it. Again, because the t-shirt is white, you're going to see it straight away because the colour is overpowering the white. So when we tattoo over black, let's say black ink, you'll initially see the white ink, and that's because it's fresh and the skin has just been punctured and it's like looking through an open window. But as the skin starts to heal over and the ink settles in, the black will start to overpower the white. So let's look if we're not tattooing over black ink, let's look if we're just tattooing on normal skin. Well, the thing is, all skin has colour to it, it has pigment in it, and skin naturally has a substance in it called melanin, and melanin is responsible for basically how dark we go when we've been in the sun. And people with really, really dark skin have lots of melanin, and fair people have a lot less melanin. So when we look at skin as having actual colour to it, we start to understand why white begins to disappear. Because the actual colour of his skin competes with the white ink. So now we can start to logically make decisions as to whose skin might accept white ink better than others. So now we know how white sits in the skin and why it appears to fade in certain skin types, we can see what's actually happening when we tattoo someone with really, really dark skin. So let's say this has just been tattooed and it all looks nice and fresh. This would be like, you know, someone with really dark skin. But as the skin starts to heal over the top of this, we can see the white is starting to disappear because the skin that's healing on top of this has got a colour to it, and eventually that colour in the skin will compete with the white, which makes it appear to disappear. Sometimes what happens in really tanned skin as well is the melanin competes with the white, and it actually enhances the white ink, and what that results in is turning the originally white ink that's been tattooed a browny yellowy colour, where you can see the white was originally tattooed, but now it looks like a mucky colour. You might even have this on yourself somewhere, on your body, if you've been tattooed with white at some point and you are quite tanned. You might notice like it's a browny yellowy colour now. So that's exactly what's happened, that the melanin has competed with the white to enhance it. So here's the important thing. This browny yellowy thing that sometimes happens doesn't always happen, and it's important to make that note as well. So I'm not saying don't use white on anyone that's tanned or dark skinned, but knowing what you know now, you can make informed decisions as to when to use it and how much to use it. Now, I personally only ever use white ink to either highlight small areas with a liner, or sometimes to give it like the skin a slight shimmer effect with a mag. I tend to use a little bit more white if I'm tattooing a fair-skinned person than I would on a dark-skinned person. And the best way to approach highlights on a tattoo is to leave the skin completely blank anyway where you're going to insert the highlight. So let's, for example, say on this arm, this where it says white ink, let's say on the tattoo you were doing, this is going to be where the highlight's going. If I were doing this, I'd tattoo all around it, but I'd actually leave this part blank, just blank skin. And then I'd run the white through it later. And by doing this, if the white does fall out, you're still going to have like a natural highlight of blank skin shining through the tattoo. It's a really bad idea to, let's say you were going to highlight this, but before you highlighted this, you just covered the whole area in, say, black or whatever colour you were doing, with the assumption of going over the top of that ink you've just done with white, because obviously if this white falls out a few weeks down the line, then there's going to be no highlight there at all. It's just going to be solid ink, what you laid underneath. So it's always best to, like I say, leave blank skin where your highlights are going. So I can show you an actual example of this. I'm going to put on a snippet of a portrait tattoo that I did. You can see the full video of this. I'll put a card up on the screen so you can click it and watch it after this video if you've not seen it already. And you can see when I'm tattooing the hair, those places where I'm running this white, the blank anyway. So all the white's doing is adding to it. So if the white does stay, then happy days. But if the white does fall out somewhere down the line, the hair is still going to have that highlight to it because it's blank skin underneath. When I'm putting the shimmer effect in with the mag, you can see there where I'm brushing it in, I've actually consciously left a small space of blank skin there. So again, if the white does fall out, the shimmer's still going to be there. So before I conclude this video, I want to clear up a few myths as well about white ink. Some of these myths are, people say that white ink hurts more. Not true. The reason people say this is because white is usually put in at the end of the tattoo, at the very end, and because it's at the end of the tattoo, the skin's already pretty beat up anyway. Sometimes you're touching on places that have already been over slightly, so it can hurt the client a little bit more than it would if it would if you were tattooing at the very beginning of the tattoo. So that's why people say white ink hurts more. Another myth, some people say when you tattoo white you have to go deeper. In my opinion, that's not true. I tattoo at the same depth every time, and the reason for this is because the ink should sit in the second layer of skin. You go too shallow, it'll fall out. You go too deep, it'll blow out. I cover this topic on blowout, so if you haven't seen that already, here's a card. I'll stick it on the screen for you. You click on that and that'll explain what depth to go and how not to get a blowout. And finally, there's a lot of tattoos kicking around on the internet, and there's some really intricate like mandala ones, and they're all white. 99.9% of these will be fake. They're absolutely massively photoshopped or completely fake altogether. And you're certainly never going to see a completely healed shot of these big fang-dangled white tattoos because of what we just explained. The ink just tends to fade and disappear. I've also seen tattoos on the internet that are done where someone's blacked out a complete arm, where maybe they had like some old tribal or something, so they just blacked out all their arm, and then they've got like really like intricate white details on it, and they look really good. Don't get me wrong, they look really good when they're freshly done, but you will never see a fully healed picture of that for the reasons like I've just explained, because you know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the line, all that work that you put in, all that white is just going to be gone. Because again, the black's going to compete with it and you're not going to see the white anymore. And finally on the subject, the way I lay white down, I don't do it any different than I would if I was laying a black line down. So I set my machine, I've got a liner on, I set my machine to line, and I just pull a nice line with it, as you just saw in the snippet of the video there. And that's how I lay down white lines. Just no different from pulling a black line. So that's all from this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope I spread some light on it. If you haven't subscribed already, don't forget, subscribe. If you've liked this video, hit that like button, and there'll be loads and loads of videos coming soon. Feel free to comment in the box below, and I try to reply to every single comment made. And that's it from me, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.